I'm Jim DeRogatis, and we're talking for my blog with Jessica Blank and Erik Jensen, who are about to do a super prestigious 3-week stand at Steppenwolf for a play called How to Be a Rock Critic.
Hi, everybody.
We're super excited to come to Chicago.
The crossover for all of us with How to Be a Rock Critic would be?
Well, it's the second half of the title, right?
Right.
How to Be a Rock Critic based on the writing of Lester Bangs.
I am, in fact, a rock critic, and I have written about Lester Bangs, and both of you have written about Lester Bangs.
I can see my dog-eared copy of your book right there in my stack of books. Dog-eared, underlined, circled.
Well, it's appropriate because the only actual writing by Lester in this book, which is his life story, is an appendix, a piece called How to Be a Rock Critic, which was super, super rare. It only ran in some friends of his college fanzine in Buffalo, in other words, nobody saw it.
Right.
Why did you seize upon it, and why did you seize upon Lester?
The title, How to Be a Rock Critic, and that piece in particular, I think actually came to the forefront of our minds when we were in the middle of going through the 15 to 20,000 pages of writing of his that constitute his archive, right? And one of the early things we hit upon was that he made a lot of lists, right? Yeah. Where he would like sort of try to self-organize. And, you know, we let go of the lists and that kind of structure as we went on, but I think that really stuck with us. And you know, we feel like the piece answers that question in a certain way.
I think initially we were thinking about it as like what would happen if like Lester gave a lecture at a college or something. And initially the piece was kind of thought of as that, but then we realized that that was totally phony and didn't work. And
because the only thing that would be true to him would be sitting in his apartment at night listening to records with him, which is actually how the piece is structured.
So ultimately, I think we just decided to land on the title because, you know, I think How to Be a Rock Critic might as well be the subtitle could be How to Be a Human Being, which I think is what most of Lester's writing is about.
The other question is why Lester? And I think you came to Lester as a theatrical idea first. So
well, Jim actually met Lester. You had the actual pleasure of sitting in a living room with him and interviewing him when you were, how old were you when you did that?
I was 17. I was a high school senior across the river from where you guys live in Jersey City. I had this journalism class, and all the smart kids took masterpieces of Western literature, and the football team took journalism because it was short sentences. and I took both. And I was driving my journalism teacher crazy with all these questions about what is investigative reporting in the wake of Woodward and Bernstein, and what is the new journalism, Hunter Thompson, and what is the difference between journalism and criticism. And he finally said, "You are a pain in my stop coming to class, go interview a hero in your chosen field, write it up, you've got an A, just leave me alone." And I spent a day with Lester. And it was April 14th, 1982, so 35 years ago. And then on April 30th, he was dead.
Wow. Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah. I gather, Jessica, you were not a reader of Lester, and Erik was.
No, I was like among the people, the sort of demographic of people that knew who he was because Philip Seymour Hoffman played him in Almost Famous.
And Hoffman was walking around the set of Cameron Crowe's movie, listening to me at 17. Interviewing Lester.
Amazing. So funny.
Because Cameron had met Lester when he was 17,
right.
1972. Something about, there's a karma there.
And I actually had done a movie with Philip Hoffman many years ago. I was in a movie with him called Montana, and we refer to Phil as one of us because he was an important part of the theater world here.
So I knew who Lester was from that performance, and I knew who he was as a cultural figure. Like, I knew him as like the Hunter S. Thompson of rock journalism. Yeah. I had never read him. And Erik came to me, I mean, it's got to be at least 10, 11, 12 years ago, maybe. And he said, look, this guy is really important to me, and I think his voice would be unbelievable on a stage. And he handed me Psychotic Reactions and told me to read it. And I read it, and I said, I have no idea how this is a play, but absolutely unbelievable. This voice is unbelievably theatrical, and absolutely it belongs on a stage, and let's figure out how to do it. And I think it took us a couple of years to get in touch with the estate, and then another year of talking with them and working out a relationship, and then
2 years of reading,
flew down to Austin and Xeroxed Lester's entire archive,
which I'm sure you've had the pleasure of.
The only reason it was in any shape, Eric, is I had gone through over the course of 2 weeks and paper clipped which page went with which. They had just swept up his floor and put it in boxes.
Yeah.
And when I was doing the book, I put it in some order for John Morthland.
Thank you.
I will tell you guys something. John Morthland has passed away. He was Lester's literary executor. And John, of course, was very protective of Lester's legacy. I remember him telling me the thing that sold me on you guys getting the green light to do this was the fact that you were journalists. Now, you are I know nothing about theater. I'm a rock critic. I don't even know how to do that. So I don't know how to be a theater critic. But in the world of documentary theater, you guys have a lot of Google hits for taking journalism about prisoners, about the downtrodden, and making it into theater. I'm fascinated. I mean, we do the same thing.
Yeah, totally.
I do it on radio and in print, and you do it in theater.
Well, we wrote a play called The Exonerated, which ran off Broadway for a couple of years. We traveled around the country and interviewed, 40 or so exonerated death row inmates and turned 6 of their stories into a play. Exonerated means that the state had freed them due to overwhelming evidence of their innocence. So that we all of a sudden overnight we were playwrights and we were looking for something to do with high stakes. Our next play, we went and interviewed Iraqi refugees and wrote a play called Aftermath. And I think after all that heavy fare, we were trying to sort of veer towards lighter territory. But what we discovered actually about Lester is that Lester embraced the darkness as much as he did the light.
'Cause your life is not worth living, but your suicide's a waste of time.
I've often referred to Lester as a person who devoured life, and that's one of the things I admired about him. Also, like, our upbringings were not dissimilar in that we were both square pegs in round holes. Instead of interviewing Lester, the way that I came to him is I discovered his work and Cream magazine and The Clash and what a Telecaster guitar was. The summer that I spent with my cousins while my parents were getting divorced. I moved to Green Bay, Wisconsin temporarily. And not only was I forced to watch a Packers practice, I was also introduced to, I think, Lord of the Rings by my cousin, and then The Clash, and what a great cousin, greatest cousin ever.
Great cousin. He had Cream magazine,
under his bed instead of pornography.
No Playboys.
No Playboys, just Cream. And I felt for the first time like I wasn't being talked down to, and there'd been so much of that already and during a traumatic divorce that there's something about Lester losing his dad at the age that he lost his father that I really related to. And on a certain level, this play started to mean a lot more to me when I started to discover similarities like that. You're a writer, you know what it's like to have words at your command and know how magical that is. And to be amongst people who don't think that makes you a target. And Lester was a target, and I felt like a target in high school. And so on that level, I related to him as well. And then beyond that, I wouldn't say my knowledge of music is encyclopedic, but it's
close.
It's pretty vast
for a civilian
who doesn't write about. Some of my favorite records. I actually pulled them out for you tonight.
He's totally one of those guys.
This is ready for this.
This is from my vinyl collection, Safe as Milk, which is good.
Beef Heart.
Bongo Fury, more Beef Heart. I just
right.
put this in here to piss you off, the Doobie Brothers. I don't like the Doobie Brothers.
Oh, no.
bottleneck guitar trendsetters of the 1930s. Now, this is a band that's actually really interesting.
These guys doing the opening of the
these
play,
guys
Eric,
remind me of Bob Seger. These guys are called the Silks, and maybe I can get you to play one of their songs in your show. I remember a sort of a great article that Lester wrote about Bob Seger once where I really it made me listen to Seger differently, and these guys remind me of him.
And Seger posthumously, after Lester died.